Hi, and welcome to Something for the Weekend, brought to you as always by Together 2012. We're a disabled led social enterprise based in the main Paralympic host borough of Newham. I'm Ju Gosling, also known as the artist Ju90, and I'm artistic director of Together 2012. With me in my Canning Town studio, where she's been locked down, stuck down, I'm not quite sure which, but with me since March 2020 is our chair, the artist and activist, Julie Newman. We're going to come back to East London in a minute for some further introductions, some audio description, and to tell you what we're dressed up to go out to stay in to do this week. But first, over to the other end of our long virtual wheeled sofa, all the way to the West Midlands for some introductions and audio description from our co-hosts. And what are you dressed up to go out to stay in to do today?
I think I better go first this afternoon. Hi, I'm Robin Sergina, also known as Angry Fish, as a Sutton Coldfield studio. We are sat in front of our lovely velvet curtains, creating our studio atmosphere. I have kind of dishevelled-ish. I'm practicing at making it scruffy every week. My hair for the characters I am being, actually probably not being, just I am. I have blue eyes, not behind glasses today. I'm trialing some contacts again. A little shaven, and I'm wearing a round-necked t-shirt, which is a sort of, I think they would call it urban guerrilla colours. It's kind of greens and greys and blues, like so I can blend into the buildings. In Queens, where the Ramones are from, so I'm also wearing a Ramones t-shirt. It's got a Ramones in big red letters across the front, and the very famous Ramones logo. I am also, I'm kind of all fancy today. I have a fish watch. I have a nice silver chain bracelet. Yeah, I don't even know what these things are called. I wear them so infrequently, and you can't see them. But behind the mic, I am wearing both a black angry fish skeleton and some Adapt. Oh, that's annoying. It's shining in the light, isn't it? Adapt dog tags. Adapt is the American version of what was the Disability Action Network, and it's a wheelchair user breaking chains on the logo. And I am dressed up to go out to stay in for a couple of things. One is to go to a virtual music event, which I think Ju may mention later. And also to link with my week ahead stuff. It is part of wearing textiles and clothing that create my identity.
Oh, we'll look forward to hearing more about that in the second half of the show. And in the week ahead, we recommend lots of things you can do from home, mostly for free, online, offline, and on TV. So, yes, I'm intrigued to know more about that soon, Robin. Tracy.
Well, hello. And today I am dressed up in a pink and very pale pink and light purple onesie. And on my head, I'm sporting the hood of my onesie, which is the face of a unicorn. Big, lovely eyes, little nostrils, and a very tall, curly. Oh, there it is. My curly unicorn horn and my little purple ears. And this is part of my recommendations, so I'll tell you a little bit more about that. And actually, I quite like it, so I might just wear it other days as well.
Well, I'm lost for words. What can I say? Julie, who are you? What do you look like today? And what are you dressed up to go out to stay in to do?
Hi, I'm Julie Newman. I'm the chair of Together 21.
2020.
Well,
But
I don't
it is
know who am I? Who am I and what am I doing here? I am actually the chair of Together 2012. I'm dressed up as not a schoolgirl. I might look like something out of St Trinian's, but this is my country look. And I'm celebrating Apple Day. Whoops. And I've been scrumping. So I have apples. just to demonstrate that it is in fact Apple Day, and we're going to do something lovely with them this weekend. But we'll talk a little bit more about it in something highlights.
The week ahead.
The week ahead. That's the one.
Hooray! It's a good thing we don't record this show on a Friday any longer. Or I think we'd be making much progress at all. So we're going to start the show today, as we often do, with some poems from the Together Pop-Up Poetry Club. The Together Pop-Up Poetry Club meets by phone on a Wednesday morning from 10:30 to 12. We phone you, pay for the call, and put you on a group call. There's introductions, maybe a few breathing exercises, a little bit of a chat at the beginning. People have been given a theme and they bring poems they might have written or found on that theme and exchange them. Then we break off for some writing to finish poems on those themes and come back and share them. So what was the theme this week, Julie?
Well, the theme this week was a self-portrait, but Ju, you haven't described yourself.
Oh my goodness me. I knew that I'd forgotten something. See, we're all
Sixes and sevens.
I think it was the Hunter's Moon last night that did it, and the rampaging of the cats that kept us awake. So yes, I'm Ju Gosling, also known as Ju90. I've got a self-styled headed corona crop, mercifully hidden under a grey trilby. I've got pale olive skin with green eyes behind black plastic glasses, black wrist braces, and silver-coloured jewellery. And I'm wearing a black t-shirt that says Edinburgh Film Fest. And again, I'm dressed up to go out to stay in for a recommendation for the week ahead, which is an online event in America looking at how disabled people are represented on film and in the film industry and how we can achieve some change. And that, of course, is a subject that's very relevant to Together 2012. We host the annual Together International Disability Film Festival coming up, starting on the 3rd of December, International Day of Disabled People, and we're going to be releasing more details about that next week. But as part of that festival, we will also be discussing how particularly younger disabled people can get into film and TV careers with the union BEC2, and just looking at the opportunities as well that filming on Zoom and who knows, even being able to intern on Zoom are offering. So again, that's coming up in the week ahead. But now I think it's time for a poem.
Okay. I've got a poem by Dawn Barber, and this one says, it's entitled Dawn. I'm Dawn. I'm a kind person. I like to help people when they're not well, or if they have a problem. I like to put on a bit of makeup and wear nice clothes. And I love my face creams and perfumes. I love animals. They mean the world to me. There are times when my depression gets the better of me, but I try to keep busy with my hobbies and still try to have a laugh with people. I've got some strong ways and I've got to hold on to them. I hope that someday some doors will open up for me so I can get stronger.
Oh, thank you, Dawn, for sharing that. That was really powerful. Julie, what have you got for us?
I've got something from Alison Marchant, who's the programme leader and international artist. This is one of her found words. She sourced the poem from John Ashbery's 12-page poem, Self-Portrait in a Convex Mirror, and she added her own words as well. So this is a reflection of which the portrait is once removed. How far can it swim through my eyes? In a gaze of tenderness, amusement, and regret in the silence of the studio, she considers lifting a pencil to the self-portrait. The mirror organizes everything in the background. The room contains a flow. In the rose-patterned wallpaper, like an hourglass, the growing up of days around a life.
Oh, thank you, Alison. And as I think we've discussed quite recently, yes, Alison's created this whole kind of way of writing poems, from cutting up other people's poems and cutting up descriptions in Wikipedia and so on. One of the things I love about the Pop-Up Poetry Club, as with everybody who contributes to Together, is everybody is just so different. Robin, what have you got for us first?
I've got a lovely little short one from Glory Sengo. It's entitled About Me. I like chips. I like wood green. Where would I like to live in the future? My favourite colour is light blue for the Victoria line.
Thank you for that. I think I might have mistakenly transposed that, because I think it was about wood green is where he'd like to live in the future.
Okay.
One more shot with that kind of.
Okay. So, about me from Glory. I like chips. I like wood green. Wood green is where I would like to live in the future. My favourite colour is light blue for the Victoria line.
Brilliant. And I don't know if the Victoria line goes to wood green, but I kind of hope it does. Tracy, do you have another poem for us?
I have. I've got one from Crystal Peasy about me. My favourite colours are pink and purple. I also like all bright colours. I have a very bright face, and my clothes are bright colours. I haven't got many light colours. I have all bright colours. All my shoes are glittery. I don't like plain shoes. I like short hair, and the colour of my hair is red.
Thank you, Crystal. And I believe it's Crystal's 30th birthday as we're recording this show. So happy birthday, Crystal, as well. Julie, do you want to share your poem next?
Yes, mine is titled appropriately Self-Portrait. Paint me with a wash that fills the paper like Vincent, make the colours blue and grey, then think of the sea and add white foam, the signs of tides flowing with the moon. Mountains add some browns and blacks, with stark lines to show deep crevices, then splashes of green and yellow, trees and plants bowing with the wind. A night sky gives aurora borealis swirling across the ionosphere with patterns ill-defined from horizon to horizon, greens and blues uniting earth and space. Waters lap at the edge of consciousness, seas full of movement call with a deep nostalgia for life so primitive, untainted by tribal greed, singing with oceans and playing with the winds.
Oh, that was great, Julie. Thank you. Robin, what have you got for us next?
I have another poem from Dwayne Bryan. This one has no title, so here we go. If you look at my frame, you will see my mother and me, and also members of my family tree, with a big smile on my face and a cheeky grin. Oh, those days, what joy they bring. And part of the frame has been seriously broke, and I'm trying to keep up the hope. You can remember the photo from back in the day, with family members, friends on the day. Flash, flash, flash goes the cameras, and they light up your face. Sometimes you think you're a star, and people may think who you are. You all gather around at the front of the camera, and you all try to fit in. Oh, in my mind, what joy it brings.
Thank you for that, Dwayne. And we were very, very sorry that Dwayne lost his mother recently, and I think that's reflected in that poem. But I love the idea that we can see our ancestors in our own faces, and that they kind of live on in our bodies, and that we embody that kind of sense of community. So this poem is by Kate Rollinson, and it's called Chanterelles. And Kate, I'm delighted to say, started this week as our new youth development worker. As we've said on the stream before, our previous youth development worker, Hazel Brill, was awarded a fully funded PhD place at Newcastle University, and she's up there now. So again, congratulations and good luck, Hazel, and welcome to Kate. So searching amongst the birches for a glimpse of golden chanterelles, overdressed as ever, but in walking boots, mud on my tights, my skirt delighting in every glimpse of mushroom, tenderly carrying the spoils home to cook with butter, cream, wine, garlic, herbs. Everything is easy, and who would have thought I could be this happy again? It's about to be autumn, the season for swaddling myself in velvets, wool, tweed, the clamour of summer almost over, the other walkers fewer, the sun clear and bright and the leaves turning, and me digging in, burrowing down like mycelium, in for the long haul. Thank you, Kate. That's a great introduction, and I think quite soon, sooner rather than later, we'll also be meeting Kate on video in this live stream in our And Finally spot. But I think that's all of the poems.
Yep, certainly from this end.
Wonderful. Just double check with Julie.
Yes, the theme for next week is quite a nice one. I think particularly appropriate for today after the rain. It's sunshine through my window.
Thank you for reminding us of that, Julie. And if you'd like to join in from home and share your poems with us, we would love to see them. Drop us a line, info@together2012.org.uk. But now let's look at what the Art Club have been up to. On a Friday, the Art Club have a still life session on Zoom from 11 to 12. Alison, who leads the club, shares the image on Zoom, but can also, if it's more convenient, send it to you by WhatsApp, email, text, or indeed some other form we might not have thought of. The idea is to join in from home, just using whatever you've got available. It might be a pencil, it might be a biro, or you might have full sets of art materials. And again, it doesn't have to be on art paper, any kind of scrap paper will do. Alison also audio describes the image at the end, so if you're worried that you've got quite a small phone or your device hasn't got a great screen, that audio description really helps. But just because it amuses us, we get Robin to audio describe the image on the live stream, and we don't show it to him first. So here we go.
Okay, just collecting my thoughts there. I love this picture. What we have is a pair of silk strapped slippers, I would imagine you'd call them, a kind of more my dancing shoes, beautifully decorated with sequins and a kind of little crystally ball type things. I'm sure they've got a proper name, and with a silver buckle on, holding the pink movie strap in place. Seems to be the coloured theme today, that kind of pinks and purples and mauves. And then the shoes are surrounded by a sea. I'm going to call it like a sea of polished stones, loads of colours, pinks, blacks, oranges, browns, blues. And it almost looks to me like, to me, it looks like a pair of shoe whales that have come up in an ocean of coloured stone.
Well, that's very descriptive, Robin. So I'm going to show you now some of the images that we've had. Let me just get that into the stream properly. So these are some of the images that we've had in from members of the Still Life group. Well, I say members, it's not a membership system. Anybody is very, very welcome. We just take a few details from you and send you the Zoom link. But this is by Sophia, and Sophia has done this beautifully in felt tip. She's outlined everything first and then she's gone back and coloured it in. So congratulations, Sophia. And this is by Crystal Peasy, whose poem we've just heard. Crystal's outlined this and then coloured it in paint. And what I think is really interesting about this one, Crystal, and I've seen Crystal do this before, is she's actually imagined herself seeing the work from above. So the image, which of course is slightly limiting compared to real life, if you would a still life in a real studio, is you've only got one angle. you've got the angle that Alison's taken the photograph at. But Crystal's just completely reimagined that angle and looked down at the shoe. So that is really interesting. Now, here is a beautiful coloured pencil drawing, and this is by Lee Brooker. And I think Lee has started with a very soft pencil or even possibly some charcoal, outlining the stones of the shoes, and then it's just beautifully coloured in. So another great picture from Lee. And this is Dwayne Bryan's, and Dwayne, I think it's a combination of paint and pastel. It's the clearest image. It's not always possible on Zoom. But again, it's a really interesting, dynamic, colourful representation. And I love the way that everybody does everything so differently. You know, everybody's looking at the same image, but every individual and every artist is different. And that's what we see on the page. And then finally, for now, this is by Cheryl Mcclellan, and I think that this is either coloured pencil or watercolour pencil. And again, Cheryl's slightly changed the angle of the actual photograph. And what I really like as well is she's put some background in, a sort of dynamic kind of blue pencil or paint wash that's kind of bursting out and sort of really draws your eye into the centre of the images. So again, you know, I think it's been a really great selection of pictures. If you'd like to join in from home, we have a highlights and links page. It goes up on our website. There's a linked page with the Main Together 2012 page, and it should be up by 4 o'clock on Thursdays. That has copies of all of the poems, the pictures, the videos, and of course the links that we recommend for the week ahead. So what did you think of those?
I thought they were fabulous, actually. I mean, and I think it's really interesting because, you know, Lee's was almost as you know, as clear as the picture itself. But what I thought, as I was watching, was thinking, I could do this, and I'm no good at drawing. But it's not about how good you are; it's about the taking part. And actually, I think that, you know, everybody's images were just really told the story of the picture, and I think that's what mattered. And I would encourage anybody to say, have a go at it, because you just don't know how much fun you can have.
Well, that's right, and it's a very mindful activity, and we quite deliberately make it mindful because that we tried that and it just seemed to work. You know, it helps people to focus on the image. It helps people to have a really relaxing hour. And of course, the other thing about drawing is you don't know if you can draw until you've drawn every day for a year. And that was the message that we had from a lovely locally based artist whose name, of course, I've forgotten, came to Art Club when we were still in person. And he's somebody who literally draws a portrait every day. But he said, you know, to learn to draw, it takes a year. So unless you draw every day for a year, you don't know anyway. But you don't have to be a great graphic artist to be able to do something quite wonderful. And I love the way, for example, like I say, that Crystal just mixes things up.
Can I just? I think one of the things that impresses me, and it's very similar to the poetry club and the other activities that we do, is that individuals are creating their own style.
Yes, and that's always been very, very important to us. You will go to some art groups and it's all about copying or everybody doing the same thing. What we're interested in is developing everybody's individual creative voice. When we were in person, what we were able to do is just provide lots and lots of different materials and people do whatever they want. That's not possible at the moment, but we think this is working out really well. So I'd like to just flag up one other item from this week's Art Club. On a Tuesday, the Art Club meet on Zoom between 11 and 12 for a make and natter session. And that's probably the most sociable session of the week. People either bring along a project that they're working on or take part in an activity that Alison is leading. And that's always based on recycled materials that you're already going to have at home. And what happens as well is quite often people find an activity and really like it and make it their own and start doing new things with it. So there's quite a variety of things going on amongst the participants at the moment. But I just wanted to show you one thing. So Alison has just started working with salt dough modelling this week. And this is Sophia's models from, who obviously did an awful lot in an hour. So there's a baking tray, some fish, I think there's a cat, there's a spider, there's a snake, there's a fish, and those are about to go into the oven. So we have further instructions on how to do salt dough, how to make it, how to work with it, because quite fortuitously, Tracy looked at this recently, and I think that's actually what gave them the idea. So what I will be doing later in the highlights and links page is just putting in a further link or a reference to where Tracy went over the salt dough. But we also have under joining from home pages, join in with Tracy, and you can find the activity there. And I think, in fact, Tracy, you covered it in 2 weeks, didn't you? So that there's how to do the salt dough and then decorating the salt dough.
Yes. Yeah.
Now we're going to move on and have a new join in with Tracy activity. So let me just put the first image on the screen.
So this week I decided to carry on with my recycled magazines and newspapers. There's lots and lots of things you can do with these sort of. You turn the newspaper or the paper into straws and then work from there. So I'm carrying on with that this week. So I've got myself a pile of straw, some glue, an art brush to apply the glue, scissors, a little bit of cotton, and a barbecue skewer, which I use to roll the paper on. So the first thing I made with the rolls of card or paper was quite a simple picture frame. So this week I challenged myself, and the challenge it definitely was.
So just flag up for people who didn't see it last week. In last week's episode, which is in the highlights and links page, and also join in with Tracy, that shows you how to cut up and roll up the paper and glue it to just make these straws. And the activity from last week, it made a wonderful picture frame, so I would really recommend that anyway.
Yeah. So this week I've gone for a bit of a challenge, and I'm making a doll. So in this picture, I've started off with 2 pieces of the let's call it paper straws. That's the easiest description. So I'm holding those with one hand, and then with the other hand, I'm putting bent paper straws either side of so the one across represents the arms, and the one going right through the centre represents the body, and that's where the head will be. So I'm putting 3 strips either side of the body. So there I am with I've got 3 strips either side of the body. It's actually starting to take shape now, a bit easier to see. I started off with a piece of string, but I found that was a bit thick and a bit too difficult to make it tight. So I moved to cotton, and then sort of made the body shape. Here I'm just creating the head, and again I took one of the paper straws, flattened it, and just worked it around the first straw, the upright straw, to create a head shape, and then continued with little sections of paper until I was happy with the size and shape of the head that I wanted. Right, so there this is a busy photo. I've got my head, I've got my body, and then to create the bottom half of my doll, basically you don't bend the straws, you just flatten the end and randomly stick those to the body shape that you've got. I find it easier to lie it down and do it, and then turn it back over and do it, because you need it to dry in between putting the layers on, because you literally layering and layering. Here I am. I've got to say, I did take 2 days to do this, because I found it took time for the layers to dry in between, and I needed to give my hands a rest, because it was quite a lot of holding and twisting. Here I am just securing the long paper straws with another piece of straw that I've flattened to make a waistband, and also to keep them all together in one place. And then what I've also done is I used a couple for the waistband, and then I've used a couple to just outline more of the body area. And then when I've got the arms straight out, I've bent the arms down with a little bit of glue, just to keep them in place. And I've also used a couple of straws to create a bit of a head wrap to give my head more definition. And that is my paper doll. Oh, there, yeah, and thought I'd missed that bit. Yeah, obviously, not all the straws come out exactly the same size. So at the end, I just trimmed the straws to create a flattish bottom so that I could have my doll stood up. And there she is. So I like it with the random colours, but you could choose to paint that in colours of your choice. But I quite like the what's the artistic word for that? I just like the randomness of it. I think it shows that it's a recycled project, and I think that it's just good as it is.
I think it's brilliant as it is, and I can see whole tableau and whole kind of installations coming from it. I just think it's such a clever idea, and it's like the frame you made last week. There's something really quite enchanting and different about just having these rolled paper straws. Julie?
Tracy, I'm so impressed. What you've done is you've created something that's very traditional and based in folk. It's similar to a corn dolly, but that looks like one of the earlier representations of dolls that have been found in archaeology.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. And here she is. I have her with me. I'll let you put my dolly down.
I can see this, well, possibly not for you, but I can see people doing whole installations about this. But we need to move on. And next, before we get to the Clockwork Paralympics, which are coming up very soon, we have a join in with Sterre film. And again, you'll be able to find this film on our highlights and links page. But also, if you go to the main join in from home menu, go down, you'll find right next to join in with Tracy, join in with Sterre.
Hi, I'm Sterre, and this Merlot, the dog. I did painting with apples. It was good. Thank you. And beautiful. Bye.
So for anybody who couldn't see that, that was another brilliantly effective, simple, accessible idea from Sterre. She simply cut apples in half, used them to print by dipping them into paint and printing them onto paper, and just made the most incredibly effective apple prints perfect for Apple Day, which Julie will tell us a little bit more about in a minute. But it's that time of the week when we move on to the Clockwork Paralympics and indeed introduce our teddy bears.
Well, I'll get going with it. Today, representing the Commonwealth Games 2022, we have Monty Blanc. In fact, he's more of a winter sports teddy, but he's come out today for whatever Paralympic challenge we have coming.
Wonderful. And we again have Tanny, our honey-coloured sporting bear with red headband, red and white trainers, a little blue top, and fortunately her own medal. And whoever wins the Clockwork Paralympics, their teddy will be able to wear a medal on the live stream for the next week. So to play the Clockwork Paralympics from home, just decide, are you going to support the toy on the right or left-hand side of the screen before it starts? We're back poolside, but not in the pool, as in we're in my bathroom. And the competitors this week are relatively new cockatoos, which come in pink and, no, I think orange and turquoise. So, Robin, which side of the screen this week?
Oh golly, this is a bit of a challenge with new competitors. I think we're going to stick with the right-hand side of the screen this week. So here we are back at our gloriously smooth, reflective track, showing us where we're going from above as well as on the floor. So we have a yellow one and a green one. The green one is on the right. The green one certainly is going very well at the moment. Has cut up the orange one. I'm not sure what the rules are, but well, now we don't know. I'm not sure who claims that victory. Ju was there. Ju will have to adjudicate as obviously the.
I actually decided on the basis that whenever I tell you that in fact the toy that's off the screen has not won, you always believe it has. So I decided you could tell me, have you won this week?
Well, I would have said the green was the first past the post, but whether it went as far as the yellow, I'm not sure.
I think it probably did.
Okay, in that case,
if I hold it up, you don't believe me. So
in that case, I'm afraid to say for London that Birmingham 2012 won again, and this week, to go with the collection of medals, I told you winning is a habit. Here is a trophy I won at the National Wheelchair Angling Competition as the top wheelchair angler on the day. So well done, Monty Blanc.
Well done, Monty Blanc. And let's have a photo of Monty Blanc once you've come off air so that we can put that up onto social media, because our teddy bears are taking part in the International Virtual Bear Hunt, which, like COVID, is still going on. So, if you've got your own live stream or you just happen to be on Facebook, think about sticking a teddy on your stream. There's lots of young people, including many who are still not going out a great deal, if at all, looking to hunt those bears. But we're going to move on and recommend some activities you can enjoy from home for the week ahead. And I'm going to start because I think I've got an activity that Robin is actually dressed up to go out to stay in. Yes, just up to go out to stay in to do. So it's a weekly global jam, and it's for people with guitars, ukuleles, and a wide range of other instruments. And it's free, it's online, and it's at 7 o'clock every single Sunday night. It's an open, friendly group that wants to welcome a more diverse membership. So if you see photos which of lots of people looking like Robin playing online, people who don't look like that are very welcome indeed. And it's just great if you've never played music as part of a group, or you're a beginner, or you just want to be a bit more social with your playing. They have songbooks that you can download, they screen share. I think it's a really well worth doing. So as with all of my recommendations, there is a link to Eventbrite where you're able to get further details and book. Robin, what do you recommend?
Well, my first one today is it's two together actually. At the moment, running up in Lancashire is the British Textiles Biennial, which unfortunately the majority of which is in person visiting. But the website's really interesting with some amazing photographs of parts of the exhibition, and also in there, I think 6 or 8 films by by a number of the curators of the exhibitions. I mean, it's a really really huge exhibition, and a lot of the purpose of it is about the creativity, looking at design, but also looking at the actual cultural histories of clothing and textiles. So there is a link to that website, but with that, there's a book by an art historian, an art fashion historian called Amber Bouchard. Some of you, she has been on the Beebs and other artsy stuff, presenting around clothing and fashion and textile manufacture. And she's got a book called The Fashion Chronicles, which kind of presents stories of kind of the 100 best dressed people of all time. It's got like Tutankhamun in it and Cleopatra and people like that, right through to Hillary Clinton, in fact. And so there's a link to that book, and it's currently available on a very well-known online retailer at half the normal price.
Thank you for that, Robin. And yes, obviously we focus on things that are entirely online, but bear in mind if you're not going out, and of course many of us can't, there's still online offers from these in-person events that can be well worth accessing in their own right. Tracy, what have you got for us?
Right, I'm going to ask Robin to pass that to me because it's sometimes helps me get my words out. Sometimes I just get them wrong anyway. So my first recommendation goes with my outfits. I'm very excited about this one, and it is the My Little Pony. Have got a new film out called The New Generation. Now this is available on Netflix. I know I do recommend Netflix quite a lot because it's something that we've got a subscription to, but I do enjoy it. It's a family film for all ages, and it is the world of My Little Ponies meet up and join up with the unicorns, because the unicorns have lost their magic. So they join forces and go on a great adventure to see what they can do to bring that back. So I don't want to give too many spoilers away, but it's just a lot of fun, and the unicorns and the ponies become really good friends. And one of the lead ponies in this film is a male pony, and his name has totally escaped me, and we haven't put it on my recommendation.
Because we've got about 2 minutes to get through about 6 more.
Okay, so definitely watch the My Little Pony film, New Generations.
For anybody who's inquiring, all of the details and the links to these books and so on will be up by 4 o'clock on Thursday in the highlights and links page. Julie, Apple Day in 30 seconds.
Apple Day was created 1990 by Common Ground as a means of bringing attention to the value of apples. The history and mythology of apples goes way, way back within Christian folklore, for sure, right to the Garden of Eve, but it's all over the place, so it's interesting to check out.
Yeah, and it's something that I think I've seen lots more. Apple Day seems to be a bit of a movable feast. Some people think it's September, October, even early November. But it's a sort of growing way and a sort of alternative to harvest festivals. So I think it's just absolutely fascinating. I'm going to jump straight in with the thing that I'm dressed up to go out to stay in to do, which is next Wednesday from 8 till 9. Disability representation on and off screen. It's a US-based lunch and learn, but in our case, it's after supper. And it's got some fascinating organisations involved: Respectability, Seed and Spark, Film Shop, The Gotham, In the Cut, and LMU. And they invite everybody who's interested. So you might be you like films, you make films, you want to work in films, whatever your interest, come and help them work towards a more ethical industry. And again, the booking links will be available. Tracy, Robin, what else have you got for us?
I'll jump in and I'll try and keep it to 30 seconds. It's actually it's called Fabellas. It's a new app and a game that's been designed by a mother and daughter team. And what I really like about this is actually being put together by a black mother and daughter team when they realised that there were no games online for dressing up your doll for the daughter, who at that point was 6 years old. She's now 9 years old. So they developed and made an app and a game where you can dress up your doll that looks like you. So you can have afro hair, you can have bubble hair. It was launched 2020, so it's still quite a new one. And I think we just need to get that out as much as we can to all the little girls out there that want to dress up their dolls that they want to adopt that looks like them.
And indeed, some of the little boys as well. So
Yeah.
I'm just going to chuck in one more because I just think it's so interesting. And it's called Happiness and Mystery, and it takes place from 6 to 7 on Monday, the 25th of October. As with all of my recommendations, it's free and it's online. There's a crime writer called Sophie Hannah. I've got several of her books, and apparently she's been investigating the mystery of what makes people happy and has produced a book about it, supported by Wellcome Trust, who, of course, are the sort of the bee's knees at these things. So I think it's very well worth hearing. So she's going to be talking about this book, which the Wellcome Collection have published, and how she's used decades of experience in crime writing and observations from her own life to solve the clues that lead to happiness. And I think we could all do with The Secret of Happiness. So that's my final recommendation. Who's bursting to give us one more recommendation? Robin.
I've got one more, and I think it's actually really, really important to put this one up. There is going to be, from the 25th of October to the 20th of November, the opportunity to buy Oliver Twist at Home by Ramps on the Moon. Ramps on the Moon is a kind of inclusive theatre, multi-theatre production company specialising in inclusive and integrated theatre. Oliver Twist, obviously a very famous story, and it's been adapted and then filmed as a full show, and they are running that in those month, I guess, really, from Monday. It's £15, but actually, it's a full theatre show, and I think it's really good, and you get to see how they have incorporated, the sign language, for example, is just played by actors within the dialogue. If you've not seen a Ramps to the Moon show, they're fantastic.
Yeah, I think that is well worth seeing. And of course, like all online events, you don't need individual tickets. It's a family ticket. Not much good if you're living on your own, but if there's 5 or 6 of you all wanting to watch it, it becomes much more affordable. So that's all you've got time for from us this week, because, of course, as always, we have our final spot with an interview carried out by Robin with somebody who we think is really interesting and we'd like other people to meet. And in this case, it's Jaspal Dhani. Jaspal was Chief Executive of the UK Disabled People's Council in 2012. And we began as a volunteer-led project working out of Jaspal's office in the Advice Arcade in Stratford. Jaspal now chairs our Community Advisory Board. He's got a fascinating life in sport, disability politics all over the world. So I don't know how much there'll be for us, how much you can get into 10 minutes, but really looking forward to it. So otherwise, it's goodbye from us in London.
And goodbye from us in West Midlands. And thanks, Julie. The introduction is done. Today I'm talking with Jaspal Dhani, himself a resident of London, quite close to the home of Together. Jaspal, would you like to introduce yourself to our audience?
So, Robin, my name's Jaspal Dhani, as you rightly pointed out. I live in London. I've been involved with Together 2012 since my working days with UK Disabled People's Council. Today, I work as Chief Executive Officer, leading an organisation in North London called Every Parent and Child. And I'm also involved in wheelchair basketball, which I'm sure we will get to talk about briefly.
Well, before we go on to talk about Together, would you like to tell us a bit about your role as the Chief Exec of Every Parent and Child?
Yeah, sure. So as an organisation, we primarily support children and young people up to the age of 25. Those that are assessed as having special educational needs, those that are disabled, and those that are at risk of exclusions or at risk of sort of social exclusion, I guess, in community life. So we provide a number of services to support children and young people within the education setting to ensure that not only do they have a successful, thriving journey through the education system, but also that their skill base and their life chances are strengthened as a result of our services.
I mean, it sounds like a fabulous organisation. I mean, it's something that, as someone who grew up as a disabled person, that sort of support just simply wasn't there when I was at school, and probably a similar situation for yourself. So there's not dissimilar really in many ways to the kind of work that Together does. So how did you get involved with Together, and what's your role with the organisation now?
Sure. So the role is that I'm the chair of the Community Advisory Board. I, sort of support the charity in other ways as and when needed. But in terms of my involvement, that started when I was working as CEO for UK Disabled People's Council. Now, I remember it being 2012 when the London Paralympic Games took place. We, as UK DPC at the time, initiated a project to sort of celebrate the achievements of disabled people within sport and within the arts as well, and held a short exhibition at our offices in Stratford. And I think the idea was really born at that point, looking at, what was happening to celebrate the artistic achievements of disabled artists, etc., particularly at sort of community level. And we recognise that within the host borough, Newham, there was practically nothing happening at all. So following our sort of conversations with other communities and the work we had done to promote and celebrate the London 2012 Paralympics, Together 2012 was born as a legacy project, really, to continue sort of championing and developing and creating opportunities for disability arts to be developed and promoted, and just creating opportunities, I guess, for disabled people to take part in art. And so, here we are years on, and the organisation has done some incredible work, and we've got some great plans for the future as well. So that's what was born out of the legacy, as it were. But it was really driven and developed by the disabled community.
You mentioned earlier, in fact, that you have your own involvement in sport as well. So, I mean, do you do any art yourself? But also, what's your kind of sporting background?
I haven't done art directly myself in a very long time, although with Together 2012, I did do a stint of wheelchair dancing. Which was fun. I still have some fond memories of that. But that was really the limit. My own involvement is in wheelchair basketball and has been since I was 12 years of age. So that takes us back some 40 years. And I guess sport in itself has an element of art. It is about creativity and sort of immersing yourself in an idea. But that's, I guess with wheelchair basketball, it's a bit more physical than other types of art. But yeah, I enjoy that immensely.
So, which team do you play for?
It's London Titans, and in fact, it's a team that I co-founded some years back, and we've become, I think it's the second largest club in the country now. And we've created a few Paralympians along the way as well. Gaz Chowdhury started sort of life as a junior in not so much within the London Titans, but within sort of the previous life of London Titans. So Gaz Chowdhury is probably the more popular name following the recent Paralympics, and of course Adi Adapitan, who's gone on to be a TV personality, to name but a few.
Kind of more importantly, or equally importantly, you're using your basketball and your basketball skills and understanding to take sport further afield. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I was born in India, in Punjab, but grew up in London. And gosh, it was after sort of 29 years that I went back to India. And that's when I had the idea of bringing wheelchair basketball to disabled people there. And it wasn't until 2013 that I had the opportunity to start a project in Chennai. I gathered some wheelchairs through my sort of network here in the UK, and set off to deliver a 2-week program in India. And from that, from that point, local communities, I guess, have really sort of took to the idea. And wheelchair basketball is now the second largest wheelchair team sport in India. So the number one being cricket. But over the years, where we are is India has the Wheelchair Basketball Federation of India. So that's the governing body of sport. And I sort of go across to India once or twice a year to run development camps and sort of camps for the national teams, and really been a witness to seeing how the sport has enabled the sort of empowerment of disabled people, and particularly women and girls who traditionally been quite isolated. So for me, it's been a exercise in giving back to the community, something which I have benefited from for many years myself. And I'm looking forward to my next trip, which is going to be in February next year. So obviously the lockdown's been very difficult and impossible to do anything, sort of during that period. But February, we are looking at starting a new group in Gujarat and running a few workshops down in sort of South India. So yeah, it's been an incredible journey and incredible process. And I think like art, it's really enabled sort of different communities to come together and participate in something that everyone can relate to.
I mean, it sounds fascinating. I mean, and so productive. And just kind of going back to a comment that you'd said about the empowerment, do you feel that the involvement in the sport has a wider empowerment in their kind of local communities and beyond that?
Oh, absolutely. There's one, for example, one young man whose name's Partha, he became, he broke his spine some 7 years ago, and he attended his local university in Chennai on a grant. And so we had the opportunity to start a wheelchair basketball camp at that university, which is how he then became involved in wheelchair basketball. 2 years later, he wanted to come to London and see what life was like. So his university sponsored his flight. I supported his accommodation, and whilst he was here, he attended some training with the London Titans and had an opportunity to meet with the Great Britain national men's coach, Jaspal Dhani, as well. To cut a long story short, just through that exposure and through that network, he is now at the Alabama University in the States, studying inclusive sport, and he gets to play wheelchair basketball there every single day. So had it not been for his participation in wheelchair basketball, I highly doubt he would have had the opportunity to be where he is now. But also, I've seen and I've kind of witnessed a number of other disabled participants start up their own sort of businesses and charities in India through the confidence, I guess, they've developed by taking part in a sport like wheelchair basketball and the skills. And also the governing body, the Wheelchair Basketball Federation of India, they've also gone on to provide skill-based workshops, just to help develop the skills of the community. And as a result, people have gone on to set up their own sort of workshops and secure careers in international companies. So it's been empowering in many ways.
That's amazing, and a fantastic note to end on. I mean, let's hope that come Paris, or is it LA after that, that the Indian wheelchair basketball teams, both men's and women's, are there competing for medals. Jaspal, thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Bye bye.